Have you ever found yourself thinking that maybe the toxic people around you have more power over you than they should? So you're not alone. We all face, at some point, those people whose negative behavior seems to affect our mood, energy, and sometimes even our self-esteem. But what if I told you that, instead of reacting in kind, you can take control of the situation and protect your peace effectively? Marcus Aurelius, the great emperor and Stoic philosopher, left us valuable lessons on how to deal with toxic people and the difficulties of life. His words continue to guide us in a world where negativity often seems omnipresent. In this text, you will discover 11 powerful lessons from Marcus Aurelius that can transform the way you interact with others and with yourself. Shall we begin? The impact of toxic comments. You know that moment when you're peacefully enjoying a coffee or casually checking your messages for the day, and suddenly, an acidic comment or negative attitude comes your way. It's as if someone poured cold water on your warmth. In this case, negativity spreads faster than fire, directly affecting your mood. Have you noticed that, even when receiving compliments, one single negative word can haunt you throughout the day? This impact is real, and often, without realizing it, we let other people's toxicity take over our minds and emotions. But what if I told you that it's possible to choose not to let this affect you? It's not about ignoring it, but about not allowing yourself to be defined by other people's negativity. The key here is to realize that harsh words, criticisms, and even those rough actions say more about the person delivering them than about you. This is not a justification to overlook everything and everyone, but a way to understand that each person carries their own insecurities and internal struggles. Imagine that, instead of reacting, you choose to observe more clearly the motivation behind that harsh comment. As Marcus Aurelius would say, by understanding the other, you will realize that your peace doesn't need to be shaken. So, next time someone throws a heavy word your way, ask yourself, what does this really say about the person who spoke it? This simple question could be the key to changing how you react and preserve your energy. The power of self-perception. When someone throws a negative comment your way, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that this criticism says something about who you are. But erase the real magic self-perception. Instead of being swayed by what others think, you can choose to recognize that their judgment reflects more about their insecurities and internal struggles than about your true essence. It's about taking control over what you choose to internalize. What others say may affect you, but how you handle it determines the real impact on your life. By developing self-perception, you realize that others' negativity doesn't need to alter your self-view. The reality is, often, people project their frustrations and fears onto those around them. When you start to view these interactions through this lens, negative words lose their weight. They no longer have the power to impact your self-esteem. Remember, what someone thinks of you is not your truth. Reflect, have you ever caught yourself being bothered by something someone said, only to later realize it didn't make sense at all? This is the power of self-perception, realizing that your peace and value are in no one's hands but your own. Self-knowledge. The ability to deal with toxic people begins with a fundamental step: self-knowledge. When you understand your own emotions, limitations, and values, it becomes much easier to establish the necessary boundaries to preserve your inner peace. Self-knowledge is key to not reacting impulsively to external provocations. Instead of being carried away by emotions, you begin to understand your reactions and can make more balanced and conscious decisions. Have you noticed that the more you know yourself, the better you can stay calm in stressful situations? As you deepen your self-knowledge, you discover how your own insecurities can be triggered by others' behaviors. Maybe that criticism hurts because you're afraid of failing or not being enough. Recognizing these weaknesses isn't a flaw, but a great strength. When you know what affects you, it's easier to manage your reactions and, consequently, protect yourself from people who spread negativity. Self-knowledge not only strengthens your inner world, but also enables you to build healthier relationships with yourself and others. The more you know yourself, the more wisely you can choose your battles. Forgiveness and memory. Forgiveness is not just a favor you do for the other person. In fact, it's a gift to yourself. When someone hurts us or behaves in a toxic way, holding on to resentment can consume our energy and prevent us from moving forward. Forgiveness, contrary to what many believe, doesn't mean agreeing with the person's negative behavior or minimizing the pain we feel. It's above all a form of personal liberation. By forgiving, you choose not to carry the weight of that negativity any longer. This is an important step to cultivate inner peace, not allowing others' behavior to dictate your journey. Beyond forgiveness, memory also plays a vital role in our emotional evolution. Remembering the lessons learned from toxic interactions isn't about feeding resentments, but about creating a survival guide. Memory helps us spot patterns, and with that, make more conscious choices in future situations. Imagine you've been hurt by words or toxic actions before now. When that pattern repeats itself, you're able to react more wisely. Forgiveness and memory go hand in hand. The first clears the weight of the present, while the second prepares us for the future, making us more resilient and capable of facing challenges without repeating the same mistakes. Emotional stability. When it comes to dealing with toxic people, emotional stability is one of our greatest allies. Life is, at times, a whirlwind, and we can't always control others' actions. What we can control is how we react to these situations. Cultivating emotional stability, a practice very much present in Stoicism, helps us maintain calm and clarity, even amid chaos. It's not about being indifferent, but about having the awareness that, no matter how strong the storm around you is, your inner peace doesn't need to be shaken. Remember, true strength doesn't lie in controlling what's outside of us, but in the power of how we respond. To develop this stability, the first step is to understand that toxic people's words and actions don't need to invade our emotional space. Instead of reacting impulsively to every provocation, breathe deeply and ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? Often, the biggest mistake is to give in to pressure and allow others' negativity to contaminate our peace. Emotional stability is built, often, by small daily habits, like practicing meditation or simply taking moments to reconnect with yourself. And when the days get tough, remember you have the power to choose how you respond. Setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is one of the most important steps to maintaining peace and well-being. When you define where your space ends and where others begins, you create a healthy barrier that protects your energy. Often, toxic people try to cross these boundaries, whether through words, behaviors, or actions that drain our strength. However, by learning to communicate clearly where you draw the line, you not only protect yourself but also teach others how to treat you. And of course, doing this doesn't mean being rude or aggressive, but assertive and aware of your own worth. Have you noticed how, when you set boundaries, you feel safer and more in control? This is one of the biggest benefits of setting these limits. When you learn to say no kindly, yet firmly, without the fear of displeasing anyone, your self-esteem grows. At the same time, you save energy, investing it in relationships that truly nourish you. A simple example: if someone makes a cruel or invasive comment, you can politely communicate that such behavior isn't acceptable. This isn't an attack, but a way to protect yourself and maintain your integrity. In the end, remember that your peace is not for sale, and that's key to preserving emotional balance. Energy intelligence. Energy intelligence is a powerful concept when it comes to interacting with toxic people. Think of it as an invisible shield that protects your peace and energy. As you learn to identify the energy of those around you, you begin to make smarter decisions about how to react. It's not about ignoring others or avoiding confrontations, but about wisely choosing where to invest your energy. After all, your energy is precious, like a currency that should be spent strategically. When someone tries to drain your energy with negativity, you have the ability to refuse that offer without losing your emotional balance. Being intelligent with your energy also means knowing when it's time to step away and give space for your own well-being. It's not an act of weakness, but a form of self-valuation. You have the right to choose with whom you share your energy. Imagine that, when interacting with a toxic person, you can choose not to engage in the emotional dynamic they are trying to create. This means acting with discernment, without getting caught up in destructive conversations or manipulative behaviors. This practice of energy intelligence helps preserve your mental health, allowing you to stay centered, no matter the external storms. Self-criticism control. Self-criticism can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can be a valuable tool for self-development, helping us improve and learn from our mistakes. On the other hand, it can become an excessive burden that feeds internal negativity, especially when dealing with toxic people. The key is to find balance, recognizing where we can grow without letting ourselves sink into self-destructive thoughts. When facing external criticism, it's common for our minds to become a battleground. But when that criticism is accompanied by self-compassion, you can use the situation to strengthen your resilience, not tear down your self-esteem. When a toxic person makes a rude or manipulative comment, the tendency is for self-criticism to appear, saying, "Did I do something wrong? Do I deserve this?" These thoughts, if not controlled, can undermine our confidence. However, by learning to observe these moments more objectively, you can choose not to feed self-criticism excessively. Instead of falling into the trap of "I'm not enough," practice asking, "How can I learn from this?" This kind of self-awareness strengthens your resilience, allowing you to stay firm in the face of adversity without getting lost in mistakes or others' judgments. Remember, self-criticism is an ally when balanced, but it shouldn't be an enemy you carry all the time. Solution-oriented approach. When dealing with others' toxicity, the best way to approach it is not to get lost in frustration, but to adopt a solution-oriented approach. Instead of spending your energy trying to understand why someone behaves the way they do or attempting to change their mind, focus on what is within your control, your response. By concentrating on what you can control, you begin to turn these interactions into opportunities for personal and emotional growth. The Stoic mentality, which emphasizes focusing on what depends on you, is a powerful tool. Instead of succumbing to negativity, you begin to look for ways to preserve your peace and, if necessary, set clear boundaries. A practical example of this would be when someone tries to manipulate you or makes a destructive criticism. Instead of engaging in the person's game, you can ask yourself, what's the best way to handle this situation constructively? This could mean responding calmly, redirecting the conversation to a more productive point, or even respectfully stepping away. The key is not to react impulsively, but to act rationally and calmly, always looking for solutions that preserve your integrity. This doesn't mean you should be passive, but that you become more strategic in how you choose to engage with the situations and people around you. Avoiding unnecessary arguments. Choosing your battles is an essential skill when dealing with toxic people. Not every argument deserves your time and energy, and not every debate is an opportunity for growth. The temptation to respond to provocations or defend yourself against criticisms can be strong, but it's important to remember that, often, silence is the best answer. This doesn't mean you're being weak or ignoring the problem, but that you're taking control of the situation, deciding not to waste your energy on something that isn't worth it. The focus should always be on maintaining your peace and dignity, and often, that requires simply stepping away from the storm of useless words. Imagine this scenario: someone makes a destructive criticism, trying to pull you into an argument. Instead of reacting impulsively, take a pause and ask yourself, will this help me grow, or will it just consume me? The answer will likely be that the best course of action is not to engage in the argument. This is a form of self-valuation and emotional intelligence. Avoiding unnecessary arguments is a way to protect your energy, your peace, and, above all, to focus on what truly matters. By learning to walk away from empty debates, you become more focused and less vulnerable to the impact of others' toxicity. Detecting false cordiality. False cordiality is one of the subtlest forms of toxicity. Often, a person may act friendly on the surface, but their words and actions make it clear that something is behind that facade. The key to detecting this behavior lies in paying attention to the details. Body language and nonverbal signals often reveal more than what's said verbally. For example, a smile without sincerity, or a person who appears defensive even in a cordial environment, might be a sign that their intentions aren't genuine. Detecting these small inconsistencies can help you avoid falling into the trap of superficial and harmful relationships. When encountering false cordiality, the most important thing is to trust your intuition. Often, you'll feel something strange in the conversation or interaction, even when the person tries to maintain a friendly facade. These feelings are not random, they're your instincts alerting you to the energy being transmitted. Instead of being swayed by empty courtesy, observe the person's behavior over time. Consistency is a sign of authenticity, while shifting attitudes depending on the audience may indicate manipulation attempts. Thus, Learning to identify these signs is crucial to protecting your emotional space and avoiding being influenced by those with ill intentions. Now that you know the 11 lessons from Marcus Aurelius on how to deal with toxic people and preserve your inner peace, it's time to reflect how are you going to apply these lessons in your life. Have you been letting other people's negativity affect your emotional state too much? Or maybe you've been struggling to set clear boundaries to protect your energy. The beauty of these lessons lies in their simplicity of application. You don't need to change who you are, but you can choose how to respond to everything around you. So, take a moment, breathe deeply, and think about how you can use self-knowledge, forgiveness, and emotional intelligence to transform your daily interactions. If you identified with these lessons and want to learn more about living a fuller and more balanced life, subscribe to our channel and activate notifications. The journey of self-discovery and growth never stops, and we're here to help you every step of the way. Shall we continue this journey together?